You're watching It's Life Live with your host, Juan Lee and Oliver Marcel. Come join us for enriching, enlightening, encouraging, and thought-provoking conversation. Let's go.
Hello, everybody. This is Juan Lee back again to our It's Life program. Tonight I'm back, but I'm back by myself again. Oliver's not with us again today, but that doesn't stop us from having a great guest. So sit back and enjoy what we're going to be sharing with you tonight. If this is the first time here, enjoy, welcome. This is Clear Journey. My name is Juan Lee, and I'm the founder of Clear Journey. We are a nonprofit that supports individuals that are looking for answers to life's challenges. We basically help you navigate life successfully using what we use to say love mindset. It stems from a book that I wrote some time ago. It's called Love Made Simple, The Guide to Inner Peace, Contentment, and Success, which is the foundation of our nonprofit. And it's basically dealing with a love mindset. And we feel that if you're able to gather the mindset of love into your journey called life, that you'll be able to navigate it more successfully. And you can reach your full potential and be your very best self. So that's what we have. And that's what we do here at Clear Journey. If you want to learn more about Clear Journey, go to clearjourney.org. And we'll have all of the different areas that we have there for you, really other support mechanisms and various tools that can help you navigate life more successfully. We also, one of the pillars that we do, though, is that we really promote finances. And if you go over to our website, you will find this book. It's called Budgeting Made Easy, to guide to taking charge of your money. We believe that for the most part, without having financial security and understanding how to manage your finances, this journey is going to be particularly difficult. And we feel that if you have the right mindset to be able to handle and understand your finances, you'll be able to be a foot ahead in trying to navigate this thing. So we really emphasize your finances, getting control of your finances. And you got to really have the right mindset to do that. So if you go over to our website, just become subscribe to our website. We will send you this for free. And by all means, we want you to have it. So that's something that's really important. I believe that's it. Like I said, if this is your first time, welcome. Hit the subscribe button. It really means a lot to us if you would hit the subscribe button, so that we could continue to increase and add additional value to you when you come by to visit us. We're basically bringing on experts in various areas so that we can help you navigate life more successfully. We know we have various areas of life, but we're going to bring different people on so that you might be able to get a well-rounded aspect of how life, how to prepare for life, how to be able to navigate it. And today is no different. We have a licensed marriage and family therapist with us tonight. I believe that she has a wealth of information for us to share with us. So I'm going to give you a little bit of who she is, and then she's going to then tell you more of who she might be, who she is. Therapist found the agricultural counseling center, which is what she's as a founder of, a licensed marriage family therapist. She's the founder of this. She also hosts a podcast called the Joy Meets Pain podcast. She basically she works with the Bowen family system therapy. I think we would like to learn a lot more about that. Her dedication in addressing racial and ethnic health disparities is one of the things that she emphasizes in her medicine and in her profession. Um, from various multitudes, she looks at the family as various as your cultural background and um, how you show up. I would assume that would be more of how she uses that in helping determine how to basically help you navigate your mental and your mental health and other relationships. Her name is, I'm gonna butcher this up, and you apologize. I apologize in advance. I apologize in advance. I'm really going to do my best. Dakar, Dr. Dakarius Mota, help me out. She's gonna help me. Thank you very much for being here.
All right. Thank you
Help,
for having me,
help
Juan.
me, help
Yes,
me, help
first.
me.
Yes, so Dorcas. Dorcas
Dorcas,
is the first name,
Dorcas.
Matowe is the last name. And one conversation I do love to have is about names. So, and I actually will do a podcast episode on that because I think they contribute to who we are, how we function, where we got our names from, right? So, Dorcas is actually a biblical name. There's a story in Acts about Dorcas, also known as Tabitha. She's someone who used to help the poor. So, in some English dictionaries, if you look it up, there is a definition of Dorcas as someone who helps the poor. I was actually named after the nurse who helped deliver me in Zambia. And I was born premature. I almost didn't make it. And so my mom empowered me by naming me after the nurse who kept me here. So that's the origin of my name. But yes, I
You're making me feel good for not being able to pronounce your name now. Because I apologize for not doing it properly, but I tell you,
yeah,
I would have missed this, and I want you to continue to go into that because,
yeah,
like you said, I think your cultural part of your
yes,
practice,
yes,
I think is phenomenal in the sense that people don't necessarily, and especially because how we are so cross-pollinated in our cultures, that we don't recognize how much of an impact that plays in how we interact with each other. So I mean
absolutely,
that's crazy. Hey, but I apologize. I
absolutely,
thank you for the clarity.
yes,
But please tell us more about who you are. But that right there, I
yes.
could drop the mic after that one. But go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll say more as well. You did mention in my introduction, I have a podcast called Joy Meets Pain, which is all about families as well. And in fact, in my very first episode, I was actually talking about my birth and my name. So the episode is called My Birth Story, an interview with my mother. And she tells a story about how I came into the world and how I got these names. So yes, and also just for clarification, my organization is Africulture, and so I don't want people to be looking for agriculture. It's Africulture, right? And because I talk about culture consistently, so working as a family therapist, also teaching graduate courses in family systems, I have realized that people who are predominantly Caucasian, we will say, do not realize the significance of culture in mental health, right? So if we are doing case examples or reviews, if we have a client who's from, El Salvador or, Haiti or somewhere else, um, students often tend to miss just the significance of that person's cultural background and how it could be contributing to how they're coping or not coping, what they're struggling with, what values they live by, right? So culture says a lot. And For me, I was born in Zambia. Parents are Zimbabwean. I came to the US to go to undergrad. I've been in the US ever since. So I'm very much multicultural, global, and I always maintain a global worldview. I cannot look at myself and disconnect from the Zimbabwean experience or the Zambian experience. And when I do get opportunities to travel, I am always understanding culture. So I can talk about it forever, but I think you're probably more interested in hearing about the family systems aspect, which I can jump into.
Look, I tell you what you've just said is Sarah. We can go that way. I'm very easy to go that way. I think it all plays a part. And to be honest with you, what you just stated was something, and I'll be honest with you, apologize for the Afro culture that I missed it.
Okay.
But I tell you that is so significant because I think it really plays very good into what Clear Journey is all about, and it's about this love mindset, and it's about having the ability to be able to accept other people's culture, to be able to accept one another. And I think that's a bigger part of what we've struggled with in our society is our inability to tolerate and to accept people for who they are, and really appreciate that originality, that uniqueness, instead of trying to measure them and compare them to ourselves.
Right.
And so I think that's a very interesting part of what I think, in each family. I think we bring that dynamic to the table, and then it can also then be implemented as it relates to how we then take that into the world and share it with the world. I mean, dog, it's amazing. When you say you had that world view, now I've been around the world. I mean, I've been a few places. I've been to Europe. I've been to Africa. I've been to Asia. I've been to, in the military. And how much does your experience of being multicultural impact how you implement your practice?
Well, it's everything, which is why I decided to focus on understanding culture, right? Because again, I also discovered when teaching or supervising trainees, those who are white, often if you ask them about, what's your cultural background, they skip that question, or, and so obviously you can see that this is going to translate into how they engage with clients. Because if I'm not recognizing our intersectionality, similarities, differences, then there's so much I can miss about really effectively working with a client who is from a different culture and whose culture is everything, right? So if I focus on myself, for example, I was raised with Zimbabwean values. You respect your elders, family comes first, there are certain traditions that we practice, and moving from Zimbabwe to the US, culture shock, right? You go through a culturalization and trying to define who am I, what do I believe, what are my values, right? And so those issues can bring me to therapy, because now I'm trying to figure out, well, who am I? I was raised this way, but I'm living in this country where, the values are very different. I need to be working on myself, focusing on myself, and so how do I balance that with my traditional Zimbabwean values? And if as a therapist, I don't realize that Dorcas can be coming to therapy because she's depressed about, acculturation issues, I could treat depression until I'm blue in the face, and the depression may never go away, right? It can subside temporarily, but until I really go deeper and start to uncover her family system, Right. And this is the thing too about doing family therapy. So one point I want to touch on, my brain also jumps around a lot. So I have to work hard at staying focused. But I think when people hear marriage and family therapy, it can be off-putting because they think I only work with marriage and, families. So no, I see individuals, I've worked with children, I work with couples of various unions. It's not just same-sex or, heterosexual couples. But it's not also just marriage. So this is the label that was given to our license as marriage and family therapists. I am sure it's in the process of being revised because marriage is, becoming extinct in many places at this point, right? So yes, as a family therapist, I'm not looking at one person and trying to diagnose or treat one person. If you come to therapy, I have to understand your relationships, your siblings, your parents, grandparents, your current family, spouses, children, right? Where you work, where you live, because all of that is contributing to how you're coping, how you're functioning. So we take a broader lens when working with an individual. So if it's just one person sitting in front of me, my process is the same. I will create a family tree, which is called a genogram. And we can credit this to Dr. Murray Bowen, who started creating the family diagram. And it's become a genogram, which is very widely used in therapy. And it's pretty much a map of a person's life, right? So you do at least 3 generations in order to see the intergenerational patterns. So if I have your grandparents, your parents, you and your siblings, your children, I have 4 generations there. And so I'm paying attention to the emotional patterns in your family, right? When did divorce happen? Did anyone move from one country to another? What were the major life events that took place? When did somebody die? The dates, right? Because these are all emotional events that are going to shape how you're going to show up in the world, as you said. So I can go on and on and on, but I just want to pause to see.
No, but I tell you, all of those things are very, very important, and they're very significant because it's amazing because even medical doctors that I've interviewed have basically talked about how significant it is in their being able to deal with the physical body is being able to go into the home. Yes. To be able to see the environment and the culture that they're under or they're in that maybe that's impacting their physical health. And they're turning this typical traditional medicine of going to see the doctor to going to see the patient.
Yes.
And so that was very interesting and very unique in the sense because that's a lot of the story that's not being told when you talk about diagnosis. When you're trying to diagnose someone, you'd be like, okay, what's in front of you? Right. And what's in front of you is not what caused you to be in the table or in the chair in front of me.
Exactly.
And now for you to say that there's this theory or a practice or this therapy that basically incorporates your family, your right. how you possess the space that you're in now.
Yes.
And yes. I think that's just, that's phenomenal. And like I said, it's in that space at home that you then go out and you begin to represent that which you've come from. Now, some of the things that I talk about a lot, and when I speak about love being the difference maker, is that it does so much to us that it creates something that we're supposed to be able to share with others. And when you don't understand, when you don't get that, that foundation, that stuff that you should get at home, it impacts and affects how you show up.
Of course. And yes, if you don't understand what your grandparents went through, or your parents, or the role you play in your family, you'll continue to show up making the same, mistakes or repeating patterns that are, not necessarily functional, right? And so this is the power of understanding those dynamics, because I think it also provides so much insight when I can look at a map of my family and realize that, maybe my grandmother died when my mother was 7 years old. And then, it obviously will change how my mom lived the rest of her life and how independent she had to become, right? And then, she marries someone that she could take care of because her grandmother died when she was too young, right? And these patterns keep going and keep going, right? And then I come into the world and here I am thinking, why do I find partners who aren't good for me? Or why, am I struggling with coping with stress? Until I look at my family system and I can see, well, there was physical illness that runs in the family, or how did my grandparents cope with stress, right? And so these are all the systemic factors that I have to understand. And the beauty of family therapy is that you are not your diagnosis. So you're not coming to therapy and we're not looking at Juan and saying Juan has, borderline personality disorder, or Juan is, the black sheep of the family. I have to look at the entire family system to actually understand, who one is and how you got that label and how it's impacting your current functioning.
You don't know what you're saying. I mean, you're actually, I mean, you're reiterating and saying a lot of things that I've been saying, and for the most part, you're saying it. You're bringing validity to a lot of the stuff that I share and the way in which I get it. Because here's the thing, I had to learn what you're saying the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn what you're saying the hard way, and had to go about the process of having to know how to, in many cases, disconnect from that which I've found to be at the core that was not being productive and not being not producing beneficially in my life.
Yes.
And so, for you to say that, if you can at least recognize that there's things that are there that are hidden,
Yes.
that you might not even know. And many of us talk about it in the physical sense as it relates to, this runs in my family, this runs in my family.
Right.
But it's now almost as more so to realize that it's some things that are missing.
Yes.
In you that weren't, you weren't allowed, and you did not get, that is doing as much damage as some things that were not, that you got, that was not doing good.
Yes.
So that's really enlightful. That's the way in which you say that. So
yeah. And we have to give Sigmund Freud credit for recognizing the power of unconscious thoughts, feelings, behaviors, right? Because he was aware that the things we aren't in our conscious mind are the things that we're either running from or trying to push down, we don't want to acknowledge, right? And it could be anything from wishes, dreams, hopes, whatever, or things that, we might think about that may make us feel some sort of shame or guilt, right? Sex, religion, whatever it may be. And if we try unconsciously, again, we are pushing these things away. It's showing up in our behaviors and what we're doing, and what we're holding on to and what we're running from. right? So Dr. Murray Bowen, he was trained also psychoanalytically like Freud, or Freud's training. And he was a psychiatrist. And so he had started studying patients who were diagnosed with schizophrenia. And one of the things he noticed was when the patient was hospitalized on their own, they would do well and get better. Once the patient was around their family, their symptoms would return. And so Dr. Bowen started to hospitalize entire families so he could monitor their interactions to see what was happening. And sure enough, I mean, symptoms would exacerbate when patients were around their families, right? So this obviously led to the understanding that a family is an emotional system, right? And systems theory views a family as a system, right? And, all systems, they'll have, everyone plays a certain role in a system. There are rules, some are spoken, some are not. You know what role you play in the family. You may never have been told that this is the role you play, but it happens that way, right? Systems are, interdependent, right? So there's always leadership within a system as well. And so when you are assessing an individual and you are using a systemic lens, you are trying to understand the systems as much as possible. It's not just the one person, but what is happening with the entire system. Right. So when families come to therapy, and I think a lot of people are intimidated by the idea of doing family therapy because there's a lot of conflict in families, or pain, right, and suffering. But the thing about it is you will recognize that you're trying to disperse the symptom, to spread it around. So it's not just this patient who's diagnosed with schizophrenia, but how is the entire system contributing, right? How is everyone playing a part in what is going on here? And so you keep just understanding the father's role, mother's role, parents' role, children, siblings, grandparents, aunts, uncles, friends, neighbors, pastors, everyone, the church, the library, the school, and you're constantly paying attention to all of that, because then you realize I can't just treat one, but I need to know what is contributing to why one is struggling. And when yes, sorry.
No, let me ask you a question, and you say that. What if there's someone within that system that's unwilling to accept ownership in that system?
Yes. Yes, and it happens. And so as the therapist, you are trained to ask questions where you're not blaming, you're curious, and people are open to engaging. And yes, I mean, again, I understand there are some parents, especially when it comes to their children, parents will bring their child and say, Joe is misbehaving at school, he's acting out, he's disrespectful, and we want you to help Joe. Right. But if you try to let the parents realize, well, let's take a look at your marriage. What is going on in your marriage? Maybe something in the marriage is contributing to Joe acting out. And of course, some parents will say, you know what, I don't have time for this. Joe is the one who needs help, and you need to focus on Joe. Right. So ultimately, it doesn't help the child if the parents are not on board with recognizing that maybe we are contributing, And when you talked about the MDs who've now realized the power of doing in-home therapy, this is something that should be a requirement for all treatment, because you see the functioning in the home. And you have such a clear picture. And this is where, in psychology and family therapy, when we talk about research, quantitative research, Oftentimes we're telling people to come to a lab, to come to the clinic. We're observing their behavior there, and we are, treating them with a placebo and whatnot to see, what is it working or not. But if we are going into your home, now I can really see how you are functioning in your home, right? I'm not taking you out of your environment and putting you in the lab and then trying to diagnose you and treat you based on what I'm seeing in my clinic. So qualitative research is really powerful. And it hasn't been as well received as quantitative because numbers is what most people want to see, but again, if
Both of
I'm
them are
not going
real.
into someone's if I'm not going into someone's home and community, there's so much I'm missing in terms of treating effectively, so yeah, so no, I absolutely love this way of engaging with people. And I'm always, always curious about, everything to do with a person. Where did you get your names? And what sibling position are you? And what role did you play in your family? And what's your relationship like with your siblings and your parents? And was there a cutoff somewhere in the family, right? Because that cutoff is also powerful.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't go away, but it just festers beneath the surface.
The adage of the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yes.
If you, I mean, that's, people say, I didn't train them that way. I didn't teach them that way.
Yes.
But yet they do things that you say are inconsistent with what you taught them or you didn't teach them.
Right.
Or you get this type of thing. Do what I say, not what I do.
Yes. Yes.
Those are contradicting statements that impact the child's life for the rest of their lives, because from my experience is that we do what we see, not necessarily as much as we do what you say.
Yes.
And so when you say, that where the child is as a result of some things that they innately have developed from that core, that essence, that thing that they come from, that place of origination. And so it's just good to hear how people need to understand the values that we play in the family. I really can't stress that enough, because it's really foundational to what we at Clear Journey talk about, that successful journey, because if you don't get it, you need it. And if you don't get it at home, you got to find it somewhere else. And then that means that you're going to have to unlearn some things so that you can learn some new things, because innately you learned some things at home.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think something I also want to make clear, because I think people get confused when you talk about family therapy. So you can, again, take a family-focused approach with working with one individual, right? So it's very possible to do family therapy with one person. If one person in the family is interested in changing and improving, you can, by all means, do family therapy with just the one person, because all of your questions are related to bringing other people into the room, right? So what would your father say? And how did your mother feel when this happened? And how old were you when, such and such happened? So you're constantly just including other people in the conversation. And I love working with couples. I probably, 40% of my clients are couples. And couples are fascinating because you have two individuals coming from two family systems, and you can imagine everything that they're bringing to a relationship, right? So when you're creating the genogram, you have partner A's family system, partner B's family system, You're again paying attention to those emotional patterns, right? How did your parents handle conflict or stress? How many times was your mother or father, or, caregiver, divorced, separated, right? How many half siblings do you have? And so you can clearly see how all of that shows up in their communication. And so many couples, my estimate is at least 90% of couples, when they come to therapy, will tell you, oh, we have a communication issue, you know, but it's not communication. It's what is happening here in these systems that is colliding in your relationship. And that is where the angle that I take.
That is, you are absolutely, I believe you're absolutely correct. And here's the thing you mentioned earlier, you said that the marriage is not as, I guess you said it's not as attractive as it was before. What's the cause? What do you think the what's behind that?
I mean, there's a multitude of reasons, right? When we think about the beginnings of marriage and how it came about, it was mainly, you needed to find a partner who would be the breadwinner. You raise the kids, you nurture the kids. So the roles were very traditional and expected, right? And so, and most women, I mean, really didn't have much of a say so, because also if we look at different cultures, in some cultures, Indian culture, for example, sons are, they go to college, and, sometimes children aren't given the same opportunities because the son is the one who's going to marry and become a breadwinner. So he needs the education so he can support a family. Fast forward to where we are now, women are taking care of themselves. They don't need to marry someone to, be supported or nurtured. People are also realizing that having children can be quite an investment, right? And so others are choosing not to invest in having children and to start businesses, to travel, to explore the world. And so with the younger generations, you hear a lot of conversation about, I want to have experiences. I want to have experiences. So marriage is not a common conversation. And so I think those are some of the reasons why. And technology has really put relationships at our fingertips, good and bad, right? Those who still feel disconnected when there's, hundreds of different social media platforms, suicidal rates are high, right? Loneliness is high. So there's still something missing there. But for others, you can, with one click, you can meet a partner in Sudan, and you can start a relationship. So we have so many options now that we no longer need to limit ourselves to, I know Juan's family, we grew up in the same neighborhood. He comes from a good family. He's going to make a good husband and father. And so I need to get married so that, we live happily ever after. I think values have changed significantly now as well.
Are you seeing those values as being beneficial? Those changes are being productive or being beneficial or being not so beneficial?
Well, I think there's pros and cons to everything, right? And we can't really measure beneficial because it's based on the individual who's making those choices. So I will say for a lot of women, we have freedom, we have independence, feminism has allowed us to speak up and, we can have same-sex relationships if we choose to. And so if that's what's going to bring me fulfillment in my life and my joy, because there are many who follow the traditional path of marriage, and it's still a struggle for them, just in terms of gender roles and expectations, because most people don't have those conversations. Most couples don't do premarital counseling. And so they get married, and then 5 years in, It's like, why am I doing all the housework and why am I paying all the bills when that is not something we both wanted? So there's still some confusion as far as, why we're getting married, what we want to get out of it, but I would say for women particularly, we just have so many more opportunities, and most of us, especially Black women, have become focused on our own success, our own achievement, our own wealth, and there's, having a partner becomes a benefit. It's like an enhancement, I should call it, an enhancement to your life, not a necessity.
So am I to assume that it's been devalued? Marriage has been devalued?
That's one way to put it. That's one way to put it for sure. Because people's priorities have changed so much. As we've become a global society, we are far more interested in traveling and learning, than we are in buying a house, settling down, and staying in the same neighborhood for 40, 50 years, right? People are moving to different countries. I mean, there are many young professionals who work remotely for that reason, because they want to spend 6 months in Costa Rica or 2 months in China, or, so marriage it's each couple, each relationship decides what they want for themselves. And there are some who still value marriage and want marriage because it brings a sense of security and stability, right? So there are some who are still choosing marriage as their number one priority. But for many, and especially the younger generation, they no longer see it as that. Couples are living together instead of getting married. Weddings are very expensive. So why invest money in a wedding if we could use it to travel or, start a business? So I think the values have changed. Again, it's always very client specific. So just because I may think marriage brings freedom doesn't mean I'm going to force my clients to believe the same thing. If they value marriage, then we talk about their relationship and what they're needing from therapy that's going to work for them. But times have changed, absolutely. AI has come in. People are having AI partners, So we're in a completely different era.
So you're saying technology is really changing the very fundamental things of what we have established as norms, even to the point of relationships.
Yeah. And now, there some people will say, well, that's not fundamental to me, and that's not the norm that I want for myself, so we have to change with the times. And if we don't, especially I think in this profession, it can be really quite challenging. So you always have to have an open mind, because you never know who's going to be sitting across from you and what they're needing in therapy. But the one thing I can say for sure is, as a family therapist, I'm always going to look at the broader picture. I'm not just going to look at you as an individual.
Well, look, I know it's been a long time. We've spent a lot of time, but I want to get a time to chat. How can people get in touch with you? I know you said that you practice in 3 states, Maryland being one of them, Illinois is being another one of them. And what was the other one?
Florida.
And which other? Yes. What was the other one?
So yes, I have a provider in New Jersey. So it's all telehealth, but those are the 4 states where we can see clients. And so if you're in one of those states, looking up africulturecounselingcenter.com, there's contact information there, or just sending an email to info@africulturecounselingcenter.com is another way to access us as well. But yes, I think for those who enjoy podcasts, watching different episodes of Joy Meets Pain can give you some, insight into some of the family challenges that we talk about. And there are many more complex issues that I will address in upcoming episodes as well, because again, something I see that is very concerning to me is the issue of sexual abuse in childhood. And it's not talked about often, but I think it definitely needs addressing. Yeah.
And it's Joy Meet Pain podcast, right?
Yes, Joy
Do you have
Meets Pain podcast.
okay? And do you have can they reach you there or by?
Oh yeah, yeah.
There's an email address or something like that.
info@joymeetspain.com. Yeah.
Okay, all righty. I'm gonna put that
.com.
.com.
So .com, yes. So I can.
Is that it right there?
Let me take a look.
Oh, wait a minute. I forgot the at. Info
at joymeetspain.com.
Got you.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. But yes, I mean, I'm always happy to come and meet. So there's an S
okay.
after meet. Yes. Joy meets.
Okay. I'm doing all of it but myself, but okay.
I understand.
It's meets with an S. Yes. And did you put it? If you could have put your other email stuff in the chat in your comments, and
yes, I am doing that right now. All right, there you go.
And that's meetspain.com.
Yes, joymeetspain.com.
Okay, yes. And then you got something else. Oh, here we go. And we got this. Oh, we got to go back here. And we're just going to copy that link, and we're going to put that in the banner. Paste. Add that. And then you're going to take that out and put that up. That's the whole link. No, that's not the right thing there.
Yeah, info at Africulture. I mean, I think they can figure out.
Here we go. No, I'm gonna make it right. I'm gonna make it right. I'm going to make it. Oh boy, I tell you, when you're doing things, when your host is not here and the co-host is not here, and he's the one who does all of the fancy back stuff, but it's causing me to have to learn. So that's where I am, and just be patient with me because I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. And we're going to do that right there. And then we're going to do that right there. Is that it?
That is it. Absolutely. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. And I feel like we ran out of time, right?
But I would really love to have you back on another show. And we have more to talk about. And to be honest with you, I would really like to talk to you about, being a part of some degree of what Clear Journey is doing, because I think it's a vital part of what we need to understand is how important the family is. And from your perspective, it's essential to being able to have that undergird. I can't say that enough.
Yeah. Yes.
I can't say that enough. So I appreciate you very much, and I want to be in touch. I will be able to get back in touch with you, and I'll be practicing your name, because there's nothing more than me to say that I can't say about a name that's in the Bible. That would be almost
okay. Well, it's hard for many people, so it's understandable. But
I'm Dorcas.
Dorcas, you got it. Yes.
Dorcas. Okay. Yes. I'm going to be there. I really appreciate you again. Good. So by all means, thank you, and we look forward to people being able to reach out to you.
Yes, sounds wonderful. Thanks for having me. You stay well, okay?
All righty. Thanks again.
All right, sure.
Here we are. Well, thanks to her again for being with us. I want everyone to know, if you want to learn more about her, please go to her Africore africorcounselingcenter.com. All right, if you want to get more information about her. I really appreciate you all being with us today. Again, if you want to learn more about Clear Journey, go over to clearjourney.org, where we have additional information. And again, we're there. If you want to get in touch with me, you can reach me at info@clearjourney.org. And be at any time, we're going to be here to do this, and that is to provide you with resources and education and things that can help you navigate life more successfully. So we appreciate you being with us. And as always, we can't change life, but we can surely help you navigate it. So until next time, we'll see you then.